Conserving energy is such a buzzword nowadays because you talk about sustainability, protecting the environment. What demand-side management seeks to provide is the shifting of the load from peak period to off-peak period.
Helping the environment and conserving our resources is really a very important issue right now, that we can give a world-class service to our customers and to our merchants while still giving value to our resources and to our environments.
Yung energy efficiency cannot be done by Meralco alone, by DOE alone. So it takes all the stakeholders and most especially our customers.
Yung ating practice na lang na siguraduhin ng ating mga appliances ay unplugged, siguraduhin na ang ating aircon ay nasa 24 degrees. Malaking bagay na ito para tulungan ng ating kalikasan at ang ating bansa sa isang mas masinop at mas maliwanag na bukas.
The adventure starts here. And everywhere else animals live. This is CNN 10.
My name is Carlo Azus.
Samahan ninyo kaming pasikatin ang mga kaalaman,
ang mga residente ay stranded pa rin.
Lahat halos ng mga bahay dito ay sira.
Lampas tao na yung tubig.
Overnight thinking, binantayan rin natin ang sitwasyon.
A portion of the Arten Bridge here in Navotas was destroyed.
Nakikita niyo sa likod ko ngayon, malakas na yung agos ng Banano River.
Ang resulta, lagpas taong taas ng baha.
Agabi takot na po kami. Ilang minuto lang po na ang taas na po ng tubig.
Merong mga outsiders na nananamantala.
wala pa nga rin daw tumutulong sa kanila.
Kahit yung mga bahay dito sa paligid lubog na sa baha.
This is Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. I'm Ruth Cabal, sitting in for Pio Ontiveros. Tonight on the program, an additional 1 peso to the minimum jeepney fare in Metro Manila and nearby areas takes effect, but drivers say it's still not enough. 2 more nominees to the incoming Marcos cabinet. We'll talk about that and more with the incoming Press Secretary Trixie Cruz Angeles. And concert tickets sold like hotcakes, so the 90s boy band Westlife now has another night of serenading fans in Manila next year. Transport regulators finally approved a 1 peso increase in the minimum jeepney fare in Metro Manila and nearby areas. The decision coincides with another hefty fuel price hike this week, forcing hundreds of drivers to stop operations. But is the provisional fare hike enough to keep drivers on the road? Amor Santos reports.
Ang krudo, tumaas ng security. Tapos magkano lang yung tinaas ng pansahe?
Yung pinakasobra ko kahapon, nasa 200 lang.
Pag di ako bumiyahe ng isang araw, wala ko kami kakainin. Tatagayin mo na lang ako to.
They're all driving the same point. The 1 peso increase in the minimum jeepney fare is not enough. On day 1 of its implementation in Metro Manila, Central Luzon, Calabarzon, and Mimaropa, many drivers hesitated to charge 10 pesos in the absence of an official document. But the LTFRB says a written notice for passengers will suffice.
Hindi pa rin kami nagtatas, hindi pa nila alam. Okay lang yun, para walang away.
Kahit sulat kamay lang, tapos iidikit nila na notice of provisional fare increase.
It took the LTFRB 4 months before partly granting the fare hike petition. It even denied the petition in March. What fueled its change of mind? Hundreds of jeepney drivers stopping their operations due to costly fuel. Based on the LTFRB data, more than 700 drivers in the National Capital Region quit plying their routes in a span of 5 days.
Kaya pa ba ng operators and drivers to continue? Nakikita sa data, hindi na. Pero kakayanin ba ng commuters kapag nag-increase tayo? Posibleng kakayanin kasi meron namang wage hike.
With less drivers on the road, commuters are now feeling the pinch, like call center worker Shaina.
Alas 9 yung pasok ko pero andito pa rin ako. Di ko alam kung bus ba or jeep ang sasakyan ko.
Many commuters say they have been willingly paying more than the minimum even before the fare increase. They say it's a small price to pay to keep drivers afloat. There are two other pending petitions, one seeking a 14 peso minimum jeepney fare, the other 15 pesos. The LTFRB has scheduled a hearing for June 28th. Meanwhile, 90% of LTFRB franchise holders have received the 6,500 peso fuel subsidy. More than 600,000 tricycle drivers are next in line, but they are only set to receive 1,000 pesos each for the first tranche. Amor Santos, CNN Philippines.
So will there be another fuel price hike next week? Energy Undersecretary Gerardo Erguisa told CNN Philippines an increase will most likely happen, but less than the price spike that took effect this week.
Ikita natin na may pag-skip pa rin ho sa market. Alam mo naman ho natin ngayon na kakapasa lang ng EU yung kanilang measures na talagang iiwasan ang produkto galing sa Russia. At alam ho natin na ang China ngayon ay nagtanggal na ng lockdown. Kaya yung economic activities po niya, mas nangangailangan siya ng crudo. Yun ang mga indikasyon kung bakit apektado ang daily trading. But compared to last week, in the last 3 days, hindi naman kasing laki last week, but we still have the next 2 days. And alam ho natin ang sistema dito, ina-average dito. But as you've observed, there is an indication na medyo nag-fluctuate ho siya pataas.
In March, President Duterte told the Finance Department to increase the monthly cash aid for poor families from 200 to 500 pesos to cushion the impact of fuel price hikes. The Social Welfare Department says it remains committed to fulfilling that promise. In a briefing this morning, the SWD Director Irene Dumlao says the agency targets to roll out the cash aid program before Mr. Duterte's term ends. The president will step down from office at noon on June 30. Around 12.4 million households are expected to receive the subsidy. From fuel prices to water woes, thousands of residents in southern Metro Manila have had limited water supply since Wednesday. Concessionaire Maynilad announced a week-long service interruption. The company points to the algal bloom in Laguna Lake. Cian Arcangel has more.
JJ Hoxon had to climb up a steep ladder to bring the hose from a Maynilad water tanker to the tank on his rooftop. Hoxon needed to fill up their tank since their village in Las Piñas has been experiencing a 12-hour water interruption since Wednesday. He's lucky to have a tank. His neighbor, Asteria T, needed to wake up early to fill up pails of water.
What we're doing is kahit ngayon parang nasa-half lang yung tank namin So pinupuno namin kasi we never know kung kailan sila babalik ulit sa dami nang wala
Hirap na kami. Imagine, gigising ka ng hating gabi, mag-iipong ka lang. Hindi naman matapos-tapos, hindi naman mapuno yung mga lalagyan mo. Mawawalan ka na ng tubig.
Around 120,000 Maynilad customers are affected by the water service interruption in Parañaque, Las Piñas, Muntinlupa,
economists saying that if Marcos becomes president, this is what's going to happen. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now that he's going to be the incoming, most likely the incoming president, you're seeing the economic forecast coming through.
Yeah, okay. Well, two follow-up questions. Number one, nadaya ba si Lenny as far as you're concerned? And number two, when you say that there has to be closure at a certain point, what point is that? And, how are we going to see that? Early this morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, Lenny addresses her supporters and says, malinaw ang lumalabas. But at the same time, she's calling for a pagtitipon, I think was the term that she used, no? On Friday, May 13.
Whatever I think it's also a continuing show of gratitude to the supporters and also to the passion that shouldn't be dissipated after the election. It shouldn't be for election lang itong passion na to because she has largely awakened the political consciousness of a number of citizens, and that's good. That's good because we need a strong civil society, which has largely dissipated in the Duterte administration. So we need the revival of civil society movements, which is very, very, by the way, very peculiar to the Philippine political experience. We have a very strong civil society movement historically. And so I think this would be a revival of a strong civil society movement. Now, obviously, it has to be in the civil society space because if VP Lenny is going to lead this, she won't be leading from a government position. And that's the reason why I think it would be good for Lenny to continue to harness all this. These are all positive. Let's turn passion, let's turn frustration, let's turn anger into something positive, perhaps like media speaking truth to power and really being just checking on the incoming government because of so many concerns that we have, right? So it's something that we should be doing.
Holding them to account. We'll be back after a quick break. Stay tuned. This is Politics as Usual. Welcome back to Politics as Usual. This is I'm Pia Ontiveros. Still with us is former presidential spokesperson and political consultant Edwin Lascerda. We're going to have Myla Villanueva, chair of the PPCRV, in just a bit, live from PPCRV's command center in UST. Edwin, what kind of a statement do we need to hear from Lenny and Kiko? Does it have to be as clear as we concede, I concede, but this is what we're going to do?
I think it's important for Lenny to address first his supporters, win or lose.
But she did that this morning.
And I think she'll do it again because I think there's also, she's being looked upon as the leader. Whether she's really the leader right now of the opposition and whatever movement that will be morphed into. My point lang kasi, yung tapos ng election, at some point, we will inaugurate a new president. So the protest will move elsewhere. Does it become a formal electoral protest? Di ba? So kailangan talaga.
But you think there can be an electoral protest?
Hindi natin alam like that. We don't know yet if there's evidence as they're claiming. Is there's evidence? But I think it's also, there's fault that lies with COMELEC because they had 3 years theoretically. Elections are every 3 years. To prepare all these VCMs. And whatever the nature or there must have been some maintenance problems with all these machines. Kaya, the 3 years could have been done, or at least the last year would have been done to make sure that those machines were functioning. And because of all these faulty machines, that's why you cannot take away the blame na. You parang the saying, you only have one job.
Yeah.
You've just got one job to do.
Pero electoral protest, you're going after
that is assuming that it's already
the winner,
post-election na post-election controversy.
And then why don't they go after COMELEC?
Why don't they go after COMELEC? Yeah. Because they're still in the counting stage. So
but later on
they're asking COMELEC to explain.
If they want to make COMELEC accountable for these malfunctioning VCMs, instead of filing an electoral protest or because syempre iniisip ng tao, kung electoral protest, medyo dapat maliit ang lamang or very clear ang evidence na talagang nandaya.
You're asking mga pwedeng gawin, no? So that's the most extreme na magpa-file ka ng protest. But between now and at least kung ano magagawa, nakita na natin, the people are already complaining before COMELEC. You got a huge rally kanina, and then they're being asked to explain all these things. But like I said, may counting yan eh. May 3 servers yan. In the same way in 2019, where there was the 7-hour glitch, at some point, natapos din yung ganun, yung controversy yun. Whether she will concede, when she will concede, it's up to, I don't know the timeline of VP Lenny, but I'm certain that I think the whole movement that she has developed is a victory already on its own. So it's up to her whether she feels it's time to concede. I will leave that to VP Lenny.
Earlier this evening on Newsnight, I was speaking to Michael Yusinko, political analyst also, and, I was asking about this whole scenario, and he was saying what he wants to do is to move on. Parang people are allergic to that term, but anyway, parang to move forward, no? And then, ang gusto niyang tingnan is, ano ba yung magiging composition, halimbawa, ng cabinet, no? Ni incoming President Marcos. And he says, this is where the real work will begin. This is where our love for country will be tested. So the question is, who will be part of this cabinet? And we did talk about that also last night to a certain extent.
Look, the fact that the stock market went down first day after the election shows that there's little confidence in the Marcos administration. That's why he has to immediately form and inform the public, this is going to be my economic team. And for a team to be credible, you have to have professionals, respectable and credible. So that's the chance. That's the first onus of President Bongbong Marcos, that he has to form it as sooner than dati kasi we can take time eh. You have this whole thing of pipili. Ngayon, kailangan unahin muna yung economic team kasi ito yung problema ngayon.
Right.
You see the lack of confidence of not only for local businessmen, eventually the international investors might also worry and just leave mag-capital flight. That's one thing that we don't want to happen.
All right, Edwin, we'll get back to you in just a bit. We're going to speak first, and I have a follow-up question for you on that. We're going to speak to PPCRV Chairperson Myla Villanueva. Myla, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us. Have you been able to rest? Nakapagpahinga ka na ba? Hindi pa.
No, Pia. Hindi pa.
Okay. All right, so 98...
Good evening, Pia.
Yes, good evening. 98%, that's what's already in. So for you, and you have this... you're going to be comparing the hard copies of the fourth copy of the ER with the digital transmission. So far, is it so far so good? What have you discovered during that process?
Yes. So, Pia, of course, the polls closed at 7, and our coordinators across the country have to collect the ERs from all over. And it is natural that the first ERs that have come into the arena at the UST is coming from NCR. But I just received the report that Luzon is starting to come in also. So we have about 5,006 plus about 2,400 from Luzon.
5,006 plus 2,400. And the pace is, you're happy with the pace. Tama yung how things are going.
First of all, Pia, the arena is packed with young volunteers who have been lining up outside. I understand it had reached España all the way to Lacson. There is a high degree of interest, and the volunteers were waiting for hours. We didn't expect it. They were walking in. So they're working. We're probably going to stay open until the wee hours of the morning because the volunteers are up to the bleachers here at the UST Arena. So far, the matching has been in order, and I just want to wait for a more representative body of ERs to come in before we start talking about match rates.
All right. There is also a very high degree of interest in your count. People are watching the COMELEC count, and we can see this very huge lead that BBM has mounted over the second placer, Leni Robredo. So yung the eyes will shift towards the PPCRV count. And I'm sure you feel that, right?
Yes, we feel a lot of things, Pia. Of course, there's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of disinformation. So we're taking steps as the day goes on, and there are big interest in certain things. First of all, we, as usual, and is common, we ask the COMELEC for logs around the transmission and the other details about VCMs and SD cards, and we will get that shortly, and we will report to you in a while. There's also a lot of questions around the speed of transmission or certain patterns that I was asked in the earlier news cycle, and I wanted to say that we asked experts from the math department of Ateneo and UST. They were here today, and I'm inviting the other universities to be with us tomorrow. And as of the last news cycle around 6:30, they have not found any irregularity in the transmission patterns that people have seemed to talk about in social media this morning.
Patterns, variants, because exactly like you said, sa social media, umiikot yung mga graphics na yon. So you're parang telling people na kalma lang, no? We haven't found all these math experts, and that's important. We have these subject matter experts who are on it and have not found anything.
As of the moment, yes. And let's also say that they are PPCRV volunteers, but they're also from universities that I have invited.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anything else you'd like to add, Myla, that people should know?
Well, first of all, I want to thank our volunteers across the country. They worked so hard, Pia. I mean, it was hot. There was a lot of people. They worked after the precinct closed to pick up the returns, and then they have to bring it here. So we were polling the coordinators until 4 a.m., and they were still at work. So I think the nation owes them a lot of gratitude. I myself, I'm so deeply touched by the way they worked on election day. So thank you very much to them.
Well, we are grateful to PPCRV volunteers and to you. Thank you very much, Myla Villanueva, PPCRV Chair. We'll speak to you again very soon. Salamat and take care. We'll get the latest from the Marcos and Robredo campaigns when we return. This is Politics as Usual. Stay tuned.
DYKB Radio